Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stephenson, the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, where our ongoing goal is to inspire you to live your best audacious life ever. It's always a pleasure to share this space with all of you, and I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. Together, we'll explore the journeys of incredible individuals who have faced challenges, overcome obstacles, and found ways to embrace life with audacity and purpose. Now, imagine a garden filled with vibrant flowers, each one representing a person in your life. Just as flowers need sunlight, water, and nourishment to thrive, we too need gratitude and positive reinforcement to flourish. When we choose to water these flowers with encouragement and appreciation, we witness a beautiful transformation. Be the world's best is not just a mantra, it's a call to action for each of us to show up and give our best every single day. Sig Muller, our guest today, advocates for a shift in mindset that can help reduce stress and enhance overall well-being. He encourages us to find inspiration in even the most mundane tasks and highlights the vital role that a supportive community plays in our journeys. Today, Sig will be speaking with us, and he is the founder of Be the World's Best. With over 30 years of experience in the corporate world, Sig has decided to dedicate his life, to helping others find purpose and live with intention. After experiencing a life-altering cardiac arrest, he emerged with a renewed commitment to inspire others to embrace gratitude and positivity in their lives. His unique perspective and compelling story have made him a sought-after keynote speaker, and he's passionate about sharing the importance of showing appreciation and recognizing the world's best in everyone we encounter. Sig's journey from a corporate leader to a motivational speaker and advocate for gratitude is incredibly relevant to our discussion today. His emphasis on the impact of positive reinforcement and community aligns perfectly with our mission here at the Audacious Living Podcast, which is to empower listeners to embrace their best audacious life ever. So without any further ado, let's turn to our conversation with Sid. Enjoy. Hey, Sig, thank you for joining me here today on the Audacious Living Podcast. I appreciate you for taking the time to be here. Thank you.
Oh, fantastic. Great to be here with you this morning, Audley.
Oh, it is. I do get excited at the opportunity to engage in these types of dialogues, and here on this podcast, we're continually encouraging individuals to live their best audacious life, and that pathway to get there is going to be very, very different because our paths are all different. But it's still ours nonetheless for us to embrace, and there could be obstacles, there could be pitfalls, there could be challenges, but they're still our own. And so I think once you can recognize that these things are part of the journey that we're on, it doesn't make it easier to embrace because they're still difficult, but at least you understand that they're necessary aspect of the path that we're on. And so, and you've got your own path. You're the founder of Be the World's Best, which I'll certainly give you an opportunity to explain all about, and your journey to get you to the point where you're at now. So maybe I can invite you in to introduce yourself to our audience and talk about your path, if you will.
Yeah, you bet. So, and oftentimes that path can have events that cause us to pause, reflect, and almost reinvent ourselves and ask, what's the purpose for why I'm here? That's what happened for me. So, and that's how I founded Be the World's Best. So about 25 weeks ago, August 23rd last year, after, 30 plus year in the corporate world, I was leading teams in business development and marketing for some of the largest companies in the world. I was sort of semi-retired, figuring out what's next. I teach kids how to swim at Foss, a big swimming school here in the Twin Cities. I grew up swimming in college. I was a Division I athlete at Northwestern. But 25 weeks ago, August 23rd, I had a sudden cardiac arrest and died. I was dead for 8 minutes, and the odds of someone living and surviving out of hospital cardiac arrest are 8%, and the odds of being physically and mentally okay are less than 1%. Wow. So I'm still here, pretty blessed. There's a whole series of events that led to sort of why am I here? And I had plenty of time to reflect, 7 days in the hospital and ICU to think about what's next.
Yeah. Just 25 weeks ago. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago, Sig.
No. I have my 6 month anniversary soon.
Jeez, wow. I mean, you got to pinch yourself, I guess. Is it real? Like, I mean, to know that this thing just happened and here we are already, you're already sharing, and again, I'm sure we'll hear about some of the lessons and insights that you have to offer, but that's
Yeah.
simply remarkable, I've got to say.
Well, thank you. In fact, I was 2 months before my cardiac arrest, I was fly fishing. I have a son at school out in Montana. He's a second year med student in Billings. And I went out fly fishing with his pastor. The two of us, three of us went out fly fishing. And the pastor says to me, "Hey, Sig, have you ever heard of a book, 4,000 Weeks?" And at the time, I didn't think much of it. It's a good book. It's about purpose, living life, the way you want to, and spending time with who you want to.
Right.
But when I had my cardiac arrest, it made me think about things in terms of weeks. 4,000 weeks is how many weeks you have when you're born, 80 years. So I'm 59 now, and I thought, wow, if I live 20 more years, that's 1,000 weeks. Let's make a difference every single day. And so while I'm only 25 weeks in, right, we have to have a purpose and act, I think, with an urgency. And that's something for me that came out of it. So
Mhm.
20 years, 1,000 weeks, that's 20 summers here in Minnesota. Better enjoy each one of those. Each summer's 5% of 20 years. So it just gives you a
Mhm.
different mindset.
Yeah, well, it's funny when you start to break that down, it really speaks to how much time we don't have, right?
Yeah.
If you really think about it. In fact, I was just engaged in a conversation with a friend a couple of days ago about grudges and what that holding grudges and how much of a time waster that is
Yeah.
because we don't know our expiry date, right? And so
Yeah.
you certainly had no idea cardiac arrest was coming. You're a healthy guy, you're swimming, you're active, you're engaged, your
Yeah.
life, but yet it's still you still were a victim of it.
Yeah. Real wake up call.
Yeah. So kind of let's can we kind of go through the process here? What happened? So you in the moment? I'm assuming you didn't really know, or did you know
Yeah.
what's happening in the moment, or what was? Can you fill that in for us, please?
Yeah, you bet. So I'll rewind time a little bit. In the mid 90s, I worked for a company, General Mills, in
Okay.
marketing here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And you probably know some of their cereals, right? Cocoa
Yep.
for Cuckoo Puffs, Wheaties.
Yep.
One of my good friends actually ran Wheaties when I was there. And he and his wife actually were the people that gave me CPR and helped save my life.
Oh wow.
So great friend group from, mid 90s. I left there to go to work for a company called Survival Inc., which is a company that pioneered defibrillators, AEDs, what you see on
Okay.
golf courses,
Yes.
ambulances, airplanes. We were among the first to put them in cop cars, etc. Have a good life. Fast forward 25 years, 2 weeks before my cardiac arrest, someone put together a reunion for this company, 25-year reunion. So I'm getting
Okay.
together with the old gang from Survival Inc.,
Yeah. Yeah.
chest bumping, high fiving. Man, we've saved hundreds of thousands of lives, maybe millions of lives, right? Just feeling good. Pretty cool to get together. So then, the day of my cardiac arrest, I'm on the golf course with my friends from General Mills from 30 years ago, lifelong friends. There's a dozen of us, salt of the earth guys. And we're catching up. Half of them are retired, half flew in from out of town. The out of town people you don't see as often, right? You see them a few times a year when they come
Sure.
in.
Sure.
How's life? How are the kids? What are you doing now that you're retired, kind of stuff? Or how's the job still going? I share with people, hey, um, if you know CPR, you should do it because you guys remember I used to work at this company called Survival Inc. We just had our reunion. So the day I died, I told that group of people that. I waited for a better place to have my cardiac arrest. Didn't want to do it on the golf course.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Good
so I
planning.
waited.
Where'd you do it? Where'd you do it? I gotta ask now.
Yeah, at my friend Paul's house. We had a barbecue that evening.
Okay.
The guy that used to run Wheaties. And he and his wife gave me CPR at their house, and it was the same group of people there, and they all were part of helping me live that day. But the real journey, and I'll pause here to be the world's best, started when I was reflecting those 7 days after getting to the hospital.
Even to hear you say the day I died, like it just sounds so surreal. Um, do you ever get used to saying that? I guess, or I mean, over like,
Yeah.
when did it hit
Yeah.
you? Like the day I died.
Um, I say somewhat jokingly, somewhat seriously, there's a little bit of PTSD.
Okay.
right? Just fear, uncertainty. But I feel like the more I talk about it to people and tell the story, the more comfortable it gets, or the less scary it is.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's gives me pause still for sure.
Got you. Got you. Okay, so what is be the world's best? Like you went through this. You're in the hospital now. You're sitting in ICU. You got lots of time to think, lots of time to
Yeah,
reflect.
yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of gratitude going on, appreciation of the fact that you're still alive. Be the world's best. What's that? How'd
Yeah,
that come?
amen. So I'm in the hospital. The first 2 days, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm talking to people. I have no memory of those 2 days. But I learned from family and friends and my caregivers later that for 2 days, I said things 1,000 times. Two things. The first thing I told people was, don't give me clopidogrel. Clopidogrel is Plavix. If you have a heart attack, they give it to you to prevent clots and other bad events. Well, I had worked at Mayo Clinic about 10 years before and helped start a pharmacogenomic company and learned that my genes don't process clopidogrel well.
Oh,
And if you
okay.
give it to me, I'm way more likely to have more bad heart stuff. So I don't even know what's wrong with me. I don't know that I've had a heart attack. Just something in the back of my mind is
Yeah.
saying, tell people this. So I did. The second thing I told people was it didn't matter if you were the phlebotomist, the nurse, the doctor, friend, family. I would say, you're the world's best to everyone that walked into my room. And I thought about afterwards, when I learned this from people that I had done this, I thought, why in the heck did I do that? And
Right.
I think it was maybe three things. I think I was brought up, son of a Panamanian immigrant who really believed if you worked hard, got a good education, and did your best and didn't quit, you could do anything you wanted to, but you had to do your best at everything you did.
Yeah.
I think the second thing, I was raised with the idea of gratitude and thanking people. And you mentioned that earlier, oddly.
Hmm.
Um, and I wanted to tell people I appreciated them and thank them. And the final thing was I knew I needed people's world's best. If I was going to be okay, I needed whoever came into that room that day to give me their world's best.
Mm.
In fact, kind of a funny story. And again, I learned this afterwards, but true, true. I don't know if you know Audley, but there in the history of man, there's been five historic famous poops.
Okay.
You heard this story? Five of the
No.
world's most famous poops. Well,
No.
I had one of them, and I'm going to tell you about it.
Okay.
So the nurse comes into the room, and for the first time in my life, I can't take care of myself. I'm laying in the bed and I'm relying on everyone to do everything for me.
Yes.
And she comes in with the bedpan to help me poop. And I look at her, and again, this is during the time I don't remember. And I looked at her and I told her, I said, you're the world's best. And she looked at me apparently and said, no one's ever told me that when I'm helping them poop. So there's the gratitude, right? Well, then, that's done. And she proceeds to clean me up and wipe me, which again, I can't do for myself. And I look at her and I tell her, you know what? That's the world's best wipe. And she laughs. And then finally I'm done. And I look at her and I say, you know what? That was the world's best poop. Oh, again, I don't know I'm saying any of this.
Right.
And there are a lot of other stories,
Sure.
like that from the hospital. But the idea of be the world's best, when I heard that from people, day 5, 6 in the hospital, I thought, interesting. I'm here for a reason. And then the
Yeah.
pieces started to come together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love the idea of the encouragement that it provides others, right?
Yeah.
Here, there's a nurse saying, "No one's ever told me that before," and when you can, like, I think one of our we talk about purposes for while we're on this planet. I think impact is a really big part of it. Our impact, a positive impact to others, and to be able to give someone even a small dose of encouragement in an unexpected moment that has impact.
Yeah.
Especially when they didn't see it coming, didn't know that they needed it, and they got it anyways. That's huge for many. And so I think by being able to, and also I want to be clear that we're not just saying it for the sake of saying it. Like there's some
Right.
intention, right, and meaning behind it. And I think when we can do that for others, that impact thing is huge.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. It has to be genuine, right? It
Yeah.
has to be genuine. And I do keynote speaking now, and when I talk about it to large groups, that's a key point I make. You can't just flippantly say it, it needs to be with intent. But too often in this world, I think we're beaten down and told all the things that are wrong and all the things
Yeah.
that are bad and all the things that we can't do. I ask people, I say, when was the last time someone told you you were great, you were awesome, you were fantastic, let alone the
Hmm.
world's best? And people pause and kind of think, and oftentimes they can't remember or it was a while ago. And I said, well, why don't we shift the dialogue and tell people they're good and reinforce a positive mentality in this world that we can do it, right?
Yeah, no, I love that mindset. I also appreciate you talked earlier about we have the choice to be the best, and that's also a really powerful frame of thinking as well. To know that I consciously can make that choice to go down this pathway of greatness. Like
Yeah,
it's the powers within me. That's pretty significant.
for sure, for sure. And we don't always have our best days, right? I've
Yeah.
had days where I'm crappy Sig. I was reflecting on this the other day, and I remember, growing up as a 12-year-old kid, and my father worked at the Mayo Clinic, and he forbid me to ever ride on a skateboard.
Okay.
This was back the mid 70s. And of course, what did I do as a 12-year-old the next day? I went out and rode on a skateboard.
Makes sense.
I broke my clavicle,
Okay.
snapped in half,
Wow.
bone sticking out through my shirt. I was about a half mile, three-quarters of a mile from the hospital. Went with my buddy. We walked to the hospital, and they bring over the wheelchair, and I say, "We can't tell my dad." They're like, "I'm pretty sure he's going to know." Um, but that was crappy Sig, right?
Yeah.
So we do have a choice every day, and we're always not going to be our best, but we can be the best father, the best accountant, the best podcast host,
Yeah.
whatever it is in that moment for others and ourselves. We can show up and be the best.
I'm very curious to hear how people are receiving this newfound message of yours. It's only 25 weeks old, so I know it's still quite young. But yeah, what kind of feedback are you getting from people?
Yeah, it's tremendous. I love the joy of making someone smile when I tell them they're the world's best. I happened to be in line to get some food at a takeout place the other day, and the local police were in front of me. And I started chatting with them. And it was one of those days in Minnesota when it was like 15 below with 30 below wind chill, right? And we parked our cars and all, ran in.
Hmm.
And I'm just in line chatting with the local police. And I said, boy, your job has got to be hard, in general, but when it's 30 below wind chill, it's got to be even
Yeah.
harder. And they looked at me and they said, yeah, and kind of talked about that a little bit. And I said, I just want to thank you. You guys are the world's best for going out like this and continuing to, do great work in the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it was genuine, right? I really
Yeah.
believe that. And the smile that they had
Amazing.
and saying thanks, it's cool. So I make it a point every day to try and do that, and then, like I said, in my motivational speaking that I do to groups, and I'm doing it at large company events, church groups, schools. I tell the story and again, ask people, like I said earlier, when's the last time someone told you that?
Mm.
And then kind of fun. Some groups I'll actually say, so I want everyone at the top of their lungs to shout, "You're the world's best." And so the group goes, "You're the world's best." I love it because it's 100 people, 200 people telling me I'm the world's best when they shout back at me.
Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. It's as you sort of think about that, it's such an empowering message because, and I think, and you've said this every single day, we've got the opportunity to be the best. Like that's just, so it's there for us. It's just a matter of going out and getting it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was reading a thing from the American Hospital Association or American Heart Association,
Hmm.
AHA, they're both the same, about this idea of a habit loop and how do you
Yeah.
change habits and reinforce habits. And you need a trigger that creates the behavior, right? So
Mm.
so for me, that trigger, I put a post-it on my mirror.
Okay.
Pretty simple, and it just says, tell someone they're the world's best today. So I brush my teeth in the morning, that post-it's a reminder, and I go out. And I don't need to post it anymore. But, for other people, being the world's best could be, I want to lose weight and go for a walk every day. And I want to do that in the morning when I get up. Okay, leave your tennis shoes, by your bed or by the front door. So your tennis shoes are somewhere different. And
Yeah.
that means I need to walk to be healthier so I can be there for my family. Right. So important to figure out, how do you change habits? You need that
Yes.
inspiration to do it
Hmm.
and the motivation to do it.
Hmm. Hmm. And the when you think of sort of the benefits of just that change in that belief or that mindset, the word transformative comes to mind. Like, it's just impactful and transformative in so many ways. But it really, really, really starts with the belief. So, I know we've talked about it, but ask it again, maybe in a different way, that how important it is to believe that you're the best.
Why, I think it's critical. And, that doesn't arrogantly mean you're the best in the world. No one's better, right? It means you're showing up, doing the best you can at everything you do, both for yourself and the people around you,
Hmm.
right? And I think for me, one of the interesting things is it's made me have lower stress, right? I sleep better. I don't get upset driving behind that person in the left lane that won't move over, because you don't know what kind of day they're having, right? But
Hmm.
you can be in charge of having the world's best day, which means, not getting angry at the person in the car in front of you. So there's a whole host of things. But for me, one of the side benefits was I have a lot less stress, and stress leads to inflammation, right, in our bodies, and a lot of other things lead to inflammation. But inflammation, I think, from talking to the doctors, was probably a big part of why I had my cardiac arrest. So, um, stress is one of the things you can modify in your life to just be
Yes.
healthier.
Hmm. Hmm. Even going to the concept of the individual days, like, uh, um, your day will be different than my day, than Sally's and Tom's and Rick's. We're all going to have our own individual. So that, even that definition of having your best day, it's very, very individualized.
Yeah.
And I think that's important too, because sometimes I think we often, one of the traps I think we get into as individuals is we kind of look at other people on their pathway and go, oh wow, so and so's gotten that, or so and so's here, or so and so's
Yeah.
achieved this, right?
Yeah.
And we lose sight of what we have in front of us, because what we have in front of us is destined for us. And but when you do that comparison and you lose sight, I think you go down a slippery slope.
Yeah, for sure. So it's got to be internal to you, and the benchmark isn't other people. But having said that, I think we can draw inspiration
Yeah.
from other people and things. And I think inspiration is super important to motivating us to do our world's best. So I joke, everyone has to do their laundry, right? I don't get inspired to do my laundry, but you can find books on the internet where people are just jazzed about doing laundry, and they're super inspired, and they want to make sure they use the right cycle and heat and detergent, and it's folded the best, and it's part of their internal well-being. And then they feel like, I want to do laundry at the world's best. For me, it's like, I'll buy more underwear or socks. You know, I don't enjoy doing laundry. But now the flip side, I think about, what do I love? I get inspired by cooking.
Sure.
You can turn on the TV and see, the cooking shows and the great things they're doing. And for me, cooking is an opportunity to provide love for others,
Nice. Nice.
right?
I like that.
So I do get inspired by cooking shows, right? And they motivate me, and I'm empowered to cook for people. So
Yep.
just in my daily life, laundry, negative. Let's do less laundry in life. But cooking, oddly, you want to come over for a meal? I want to know what you
I
like,
got you.
and we'll, even if I haven't cooked it, let's figure out how to do it and have a great meal.
I'd love that. And also, the laundry folks, if you're out there, I still haven't unpacked for my trip yet, Sig. So, I mean, the suitcase is still sitting by the door with the clothes in there because I just don't want to do it. But
Yeah.
I'm with you on the laundry thing 100%. That's funny. Yeah, I just, again, I think your stories are very powerful, and again, very, very much in line with this podcast, right? On this podcast, we encourage individuals to live your best audacious life ever, right? And so
Yeah.
live your best day, and eliminate and eliminate and break down whether it's the fear of doing something or the doubt, oh my gosh, I can't take this first step. Take that first step, because you never know what will happen, what will come out of that. And so I think the messages are aligned. The other thing I wanted to sort of analogy that I wanted to share with you is I use it often, like in life, I consider life like a series of hills and valleys, right?
Mm,
So on the top of the
yeah.
hill, it's great. We celebrate, we're happy, we've got satisfaction, fulfillment, joy, peace, all the good things that we want out of life.
Yeah.
But as we go, life is a continuum. It doesn't just stop, it continues on. And so, you don't stay on the top of the hill forever. Sometimes there's a bit of a dip.
Yeah.
And down that valley is where there's the pain and the not so fun stuff. Maybe there's some disappointment, some failures, a whole bunch of things that don't provide the same level of happiness at the top of the hill. When we get in that valley, we've got a choice. We can stay down there and lament how terrible our life is, or figure out a way to get ourselves out of that valley as quickly as possible so we can get back on top of the hill and celebrate. And,
Amen.
and I believe that if that is the mindset that we embrace, and also
Yeah.
recognize when the adversities come our way, we can understand better. Again, as hard as they are in the moment, and they are hard. I'm not trying to minimize them and say it's no big deal, get over it. It's not the message. The message simply is understanding what this is in your life and what you need to do as an individual to get past it.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. A lot of it is just internal to yourself and your belief and your confidence. I'm blessed, and I think a lot of others obviously are as well, to have a good support system
Yeah.
with friends and family. My sister Maria lives here in town, and she marshaled the troops and was there in the hospital to make sure everything went well. My son flew in from Montana, second year med student, and I gave him a real life case study, to talk with
Ah,
the doctors about.
right, right.
Um, so when we are in that valley, if there's people in our lives that we rely on, that we can reach out to,
Yes.
I think people genuinely, want to help, right? They want to be there to help elevate others. And I'm very blessed to have a lot of people in my life. The General Mills Friends group,
Beautiful.
I wouldn't be here without
Beautiful.
those 30 plus year relationships.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'd love to know, how long did it take to get you back on your feet and you're raring to go?
Yeah, good question. Um, there's a thing called cardiac physical therapy, which I did for about a month. And what I loved about that is they literally put you on a 3-lead heart monitor while you exercise. And I would do that 3 days a week. Big confidence booster that, hey, it's working okay, and somebody's watching my heart. So
Right.
from a mental standpoint, big part of the game. But I would say, so Thanksgiving was 3 months post my cardiac arrest. And I had been playing prior to that pickleball 5 days a week for a couple hours, doing cardio and strength training 3 days a week. I was back there by Thanksgiving,
Wow.
but it was a grind. Initially I would just go down to the treadmill in my place 5 times a day because, sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah.
We got to
Yeah.
get up and be active. And I would only walk maybe a half mile 5 times a day. But
Wow.
then, a little more, do a little
Yep.
more every
Yep.
day, right? Improve yourself every day.
Amazing. Amazing. So I absolutely love the story, love the journey. But the thing that really is powerful with that, and so I'm a big fan of storytelling. I think
Yeah.
storytelling is a wonderful thing, and but because our stories have the ability to help, to impact positively, so much wonderful things. I love the fact that your story doesn't end for you. Well, I had a cardiac arrest, right? And sometimes when people tell their stories, they tell the bad stuff or they tell the unfortunate stuff, but the piece around, well, what did you get out of it? How did you overcome? How do you succeed? They kind of leave that part off, and to me, that's the most critical part of the story. The bad
Yeah.
stuff that's happening, for sure, for sure, for sure. But the most critical part is what you did next. And the reason why that thing is what you did next, first off, it inspires you, but it inspires others too. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what you've done. You haven't sat in the, oh my gosh, this is what happened to me. You move
Yeah.
beyond that, and that's what makes part of your story just so phenomenal. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's a choice, like you said. You can stay in the valley. I could have crawled into the fetal position and, you know, just, lived in one room the rest of my life, worried about what was going to happen. Um, But I listened to what had happened and put it all together with my life and career and faith and family. And this is it. And it's awesome. It's super fulfilling. Um, I love it. And hopefully I have 20 years. My father he'll be 95 in February.
Wow.
Well, that'd be almost 40 years for me.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll take 1,000 weeks, 20 years, 1 week at a time, make a difference.
And that's exactly. I think the 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 moment at a time is the key to go. Sig, thank you for this. For listeners that wanted to learn more about you or be the world's best, where can we send them?
Yeah, they can go to my website, betheworldsbest.com. It's also on LinkedIn at Be the World's Best, Facebook at Be the World's Best. And I've started writing a book.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and so that should come out probably in 7, 8 months, I think. It's
Okay.
early on in the process, but if you were to be here in my room, you'd see a wall covered with about 200 Post-its
Lovely.
that are input to the story. It's the first book I've ever written, but as I've talked with people, I want to share the story that way as well.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. I can't wait. We'll have to get back on and have a conversation about that when it's ready to go. It'd be awesome.
That'd be fantastic.
Sig, thank you for this. This has been great. Again, I much adoration and praise for your journey and what you've done with your story. And as well, I want to thank you for being a guest today here on the Audacious Living Podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Audley, for everything you do. And I have to tell you, you're the world's best.
Thank you very, very much. So are you. So are you. Thanks, Sig.
All right.
Back, we are here on the podcast, and much thanks and appreciation goes out to Sid. During our chat, he shared profound insights about the importance of gratitude and how it can transform our interactions with others. He emphasized that each day presents an opportunity to express appreciation, not only for ourselves, but also those around us. This simple yet powerful mindset shift really has the potential to reduce stress and enhance our overall well-being. I personally loved how Sid illustrated the idea through his own experiences at the hospital after his cardiac event, where he made a point of to acknowledge the caregivers as the world's best. It's a reminder that a little gratitude can go a long way impacting our lives and the others in meaningful ways. I encourage you to connect with Sid directly to learn more about his mission and to explore how you can incorporate his principles into your own life. You can find his contact details, of course, in the show notes below. We got you hooked up here, along with links to his website and social media. Additionally, be on the lookout for his upcoming book, which will delve deeper into his philosophies and experiences. It's set to be released in the coming months, and I believe it will be a valuable resource for anyone looking to embrace a life of gratitude and positivity. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Audacious Living Podcast. If you've enjoyed today's conversation and found value in Sig's insights, please like, follow, subscribe, and share this podcast. If you haven't already done so, sharing it with family and friends can help us continue to grow and inspire others on their own audacious journey. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stephenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.